What is BPH? What are the risk factors of BPH? Why it is caused? What are the signs and symptoms of BPH? What are its complications? How to diagnose BPH and what is the management of BPH? This image shows that there is a normal prostate and there is an enlarged prostate. The enlarged prostate is in the condition of BPH. So, if we see the term BPH, B stands for benign. Benign means it is a mass or the tumor that does not invade the nearby tissues and spread to other parts of the body. Then P stands for prostatic. It means it is related to the prostate gland. Prostate gland is located inferior to the urinary bladder and anterior to the rectum, and it surrounds the prostatic urethra. The secretions of the prostate gland make up about 25% of volume of semen and contribute to the sperm motility and the viability. Then hyperplasia term. This term stands for increase in the number of the cells. So we can define BPH as a benign condition in which there is the increased number of prostatic cells which is leading to the enlargement of the prostate gland. Benign prostatic hyperplasia is also known as benign prostatic hypertrophy or benign prostatic obstruction. It is a non-malignant enlargement of the prostate and it is considered a normal part of the aging process in males. It is a normal part of the aging process. It typically begins after the age of 40 and half of males of age 50 and over are affected, and after the age of 80 about 90% of males are affected. So let's discuss what are the risk factors for BPH. First is aging. We already discussed that after the age of 40 years the person is more prone for developing BPH disease condition and family history. Second, these are the two most important risk factors which increases a man's risk for the BPH. Then obesity, lack of physical activity and erectile dysfunction condition also increases the risk. Erectile dysfunction, it is inability to develop or maintain an erection of penis during the sexual activity. So these are the 5 risk factors of BPH, in which 2 are most important. These are aging and the family history. Now, why the BPH is caused? Dihydrotestosterone. It is the hormone which is produced in the prostate gland, and what is its function? It will stimulate the growth of the prostatic cells. The testosterone which is produced in the testicles, this testosterone is converted into DHT by the enzyme 5-alpha reductase. Due to unknown reasons, this enzyme activity increases as the person ages. So the enzyme levels are increased, there will be more levels of DHT, and if there is a more DHT, there will be more growth of the prostatic cells, which will lead to the BPH. But it is a benign condition, but the person who is having a BPH, he or she has no any risk for developing the cell mutation which can lead to the prostate cancer. It means the person who is having BPH will not be at a risk or is not at a risk for development of the prostate cancer. As the prostate is enlarged, it will compress the urethra, the prostatic urethra, and urine will not be flow normally. The urine get accumulated in the bladder and the bladder will dilate. As the bladder distended, the smooth muscle walls of the bladder will contract harder and harder, and there will be hypertrophy of the bladder. Also, because urine was not flowing normally, it get retained in the bladder. There will be stagnation of urine. This will promote the proliferation of the microorganisms and this will lead to the urinary tract infection. Now, what are the signs and symptoms of the BPH? The signs and symptoms include the lower urinary tract symptoms and the gross hematuria. Gross hematuria means the person will have a pink, red or cola colored urine because there is the presence of RBCs. And with a visible or naked eye, the person can easily observe that the urine has RBCs because of its color. In the lower urinary tract symptoms, there are irritative symptoms and the obstructive symptoms. Let's discuss about these symptoms one by one. Irritative symptoms include urinary frequency, means the person will urinate more often than usual, urinary urgency and urge incontinence. Urinary urgency means the person will have a sudden, compelling urge to urinate, and urge incontinence means sudden and intense urge to urinate followed by involuntary loss of urine. Nocturia, frequent urination at night. Then dysuria, which means discomfort when person urinates. In the obstructive symptoms, it includes hesitancy, means the person has trouble starting or maintaining a urinary stream, then straining to urinate, poor and or intermittent stream, then prolonged terminal dribbling. Prolonged terminal dribbling. What is terminal dribbling? It means terminal dribbling means the final part of the maturation when the flow has slowed to a dribble, so it will be prolonged. Then sensation of incomplete voiding. So these are the signs and symptoms. Next, what are the complications? As I already discussed with you, the retention of urine will cause urinary tract infection. The urine will get stagnated in the bladder. This will create an environment or favorable environment for the microorganisms to grow, leading to urinary tract infection. Next is bladder outlet obstruction. Bladder outlet obstruction means blockage at the base of the bladder. So these are the two most important complications of BPH. Now, how to diagnose BPH? First is history collection, which focuses on the risk factors, the age of the patient and the family history, obesity, the lifestyle, and any complaints of erectile dysfunction or not. Then physical examination. This includes digital rectal examination, that is DRE. In the digital rectal examination, the healthcare provider asks the patient to bend over a table or lie on his side and while holding knees close to the chest, and then a healthcare provider slide gloved lubricated finger into the rectum and then reaches out to the prostate and then palpate it. So during palpation, the findings are noted out. In the BPH, the findings will be that the prostate will be symmetrically enlarged, it will be smooth, there will be no nodules, it will be firm, it will be non-tender, and it will have a rubbery or the elastic texture. This is the image showing the digital rectal examination. Because the prostate is in anterior to the rectum, that's why the rectal method is used to examine the prostate. Second, urine analysis and urine culture, which mostly focuses on the urinary tract infection and hematuria. Then PSA levels. PSA means prostate specific antigen levels. PSA, it is a protein which is produced by the normal and the cancerous cells of the prostate gland. The main important thing is PSA normal values varies with the age, and most commonly the doctors recommend further tests if the prostate specific antigen levels are more than 4 nanogram per ml. This is a blood test which is performed, blood prostate specific antigen levels, but there are various factors which might raise a prostate specific levels. The BPH, the prostatitis, and the prostate cancer, these are the three disease conditions in which there will be elevated PSA levels. There are some instructions given to the patients who needs to undergo PSA blood test. Uh, they must abstain from ejaculation for a day or two. They should avoid riding a bicycle, and if they have to undergo the digital rectal examination, then blood test should be taken before that. So these are the important instructions which are provided by nurses. Then ultrasound. Ultrasonography include the ultrasonography of the bladder and the prostate. The normal size of the prostate is 3 into 3 into 5 centimeter and approximate volume is 25 ml. Mean weight in the adults is 11 gram. So in the abdominal ultrasound, the findings will be elevated total prostate volume. The post-voidal residual urine volume will be also elevated more than 100 ml. There will be bladder wall thickening because of the hypertrophy. For the prostate ultrasonography, transrectal method is used. Then prostate biopsy. Biopsy, it is a collection of sample of prostate tissue and then examination under the microscope. It is done by two methods, transrectal and the transperineal. In the transperineal, the incision is made in the perineum between the anus and the scrotum. Then biopsy needle is inserted through this incision and then reaches into the prostate. In the biopsy, there will be hypoplasia of the prostate cells. Next one is uroflowmetry, which measure the urinary flow rate. Normally, the maximal urinary flow rate should be more than 15 ml per second. But if there is a bladder outlet obstruction, the maximal flow rate will be less than 15 ml per second. So these are all the tests which are performed to diagnose the BPH or other conditions which are associated with BPH. Then the management include lifestyle modifications, medications, and the surgery. Lifestyle modification include person needs to give health education that physical activity should be encouraged in day-to-day life, then decrease fluid intake before bedtime to prevent nocturia, then moderate the consumption of alcohol and the caffeine containing products, then follow a timed voiding schedule. This is very important. Then three medications are used. First are alpha blockers. These relax the smooth muscles in the prostate and the bladder neck, thus decrease the blockage of urinary flow. These examples are alfuzosin, doxazosin, silodosin, tamsulosin, terazosin, and the naftopitin. Next, 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. These drugs will inhibit the enzyme's activity. So these include finasteride and the dutasteride. Then phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitors. These are mainly used for those patients who are having BPH and the erectile dysfunction, and reduce the lower urinary tract symptoms by relaxing the smooth muscles in the lower urinary tract. The example include sildenafil, tadalafil, and the vardenafil. So these are the three medications which are most commonly used for BPH patients. Then in the surgery, there are three surgical interventions: TURP, TUIP, and prostatectomy. Transurethral resection of prostate, transurethral incision of the prostate, and the open or the laparoscopic prostatectomy. TURP, it is the gold standard treatment method. The urologist insert a resectoscope through the urethra to reach the prostate and then cut the pieces of enlarged prostate tissue with a wire loop. Next is TUIP. It is indicated in patients with a small prostate, means the weight is 30 grams or less, and they are also having the obstructive symptoms or those who are at high risk for the surgical complications. So in the TUIP, it is also performed using a resectoscope, and 1 or 2 incisions are made on the prostate so that the pressure on the urethra is relieved. One of the major complications of the TURP is that it may cause retrograde ejaculation. It means the semen travels backwards into the bladder. So during TURP surgery, there may be a damage of the circular muscles which are present at the entrance of the bladder. So if they are damaged, they will remain relaxed. There will be no constriction or contraction of these muscles when the ejaculation occurs. So due to which the semen will travel backward into the bladder. So with the TUIP, these surgical complications are reduced, and TUIP is most commonly used for small prostate in which there is obstruction to the urinary flow. Then open and the laparoscopic or the robotic prostatectomy is done for large prostate with the more than 75 grams of weight. Next, minimally invasive treatment. These are therapies which rely on the heat. So heat is used to destroy the prostate tissue, and it is delivered in a limited and the controlled fashion. It is delivered in the form of laser energy, microwaves, radio frequency energy, high intensity ultrasound waves, and high voltage electrical energy. These are the newer techniques for the management of the BPH. So we discussed the management in 3 parts: lifestyle modification, medications, and the surgery. Apart from that, we also discussed about the minimally invasive treatment, which include transurethral microwave therapy or transurethral needle ablation therapy. Now the nursing management. I have discussed 2 important nursing diagnoses for the patients with BPH. First is urinary retention related to mechanical obstruction caused by enlarged prostate, as evidenced by frequency, hesitancy, inability to empty the bladder completely, and incontinence or dribbling. So what are the nursing interventions for this diagnosis? First, encourage the patient to void every 2 to 4 hours. It means encourage for the time voiding schedule, and when urge is noted, then provide this bath because it will promote the relaxation of the muscles and also may enhance the voiding effort. Catheterize for the residual urine and leave the catheter, indwelling catheter, as indicated. Administer the prescribed medications such as alpha-adrenergic antagonist because these will help in relaxation of the smooth muscles. So these are the interventions from the nurse's side for the urinary retention. Next nursing diagnosis is acute pain related to bladder distension as evidenced by patient verbalization, narrowed focus, grimacing, distraction behaviors, and restlessness. The nursing interventions include include assess the characteristics of pain, means location, intensity, character, exaggerating and the relieving factors, recommend bed rest to the patient, provide comfort measures, for example, providing back rub, providing a comfortable position, teaching and assisting the patient for the relaxation and the deep breathing exercises, then involving the patient in the diversional activities like reading books, reading story books, or watching TV, singing a song, etc. Perform catheterization because acute pain may be because of urinary bladder distension, which may be relieved by the catheterization. Then administer prescribed analgesics and the antispasmodics. So today we discuss about benign prostate hyperplasia. It is characterized by the progressive enlargement of the prostate gland. Most commonly it is seen in men who are older than the 40 years, and this condition causes varying degree of urethral obstruction, and therefore there is a restriction to the flow of urine. But the BPH does not increase the risk of the person for development of the prostate cancer. Depending upon the size of the prostate gland, the age of the patient, health of the patient, and the extent of obstruction, it is treated symptomatically and surgically. I hope this video will help you to learn about benign prostatic hyperplasia. Thank you so much.